I don't know. I might be more petrified at the hymns.
I guess that makes sense. I feel like the demise is my bigger issue.
Welcome back to another episode of Enigma Explorers. I'm Diana, and with me is Marcel. Today we're journeying into the heart of one of the most enthralling and mysterious tales in American folklore, the Bell Witch Haunting.
Absolutely, Diana. Our story unfolds in the early 1800s on a quiet farm in Red River, Tennessee, where the Bell's family life turned into a nightmare of supernatural proportions. This saga is not just a ghost story, it's a historical mystery that has puzzled scholars and enthusiasts for over 2 centuries.
Yep. So John Bell, the family patriarch, moved to Tennessee from North Carolina, seeking a new start. Alongside his wife, Lucy, they raised a large family. Let me just make sure I enunciate that a little bit more. A very large family. Jesse, John Jr., Drury, Benjamin, Esther, Zadok, and Elizabeth, who is affectionately known as Betsy.
That is a large family indeed. The life on the frontier, though, was challenging but rewarding. The Bells were well respected in their community, a testament to their hard work and integrity. Their peaceful existence, though, was about to be shattered by unexplained events that would leave a lasting mark on American folklore.
It started subtly in 1817, knocking sounds, strange animals sighted on the property, and then, more alarmingly, physical attacks on the children, particularly Betsy, who suffered the most.
Wow. Well, an account from Betsy Bell paints a harrowing picture. She described invisible forces that slapped her, pulled her hair, and inflicted pins and needles sensations. I can only imagine what that must feel like.
Oh, that's terrifying.
When you experience that.
That is terrifying. Like, if one of our girls was being physically attacked by something that we didn't know even existed.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
I agree. So John Bell, though, experienced facial paralysis, a condition that local doctors could not explain at the time.
Neighbors, initially skeptical, were soon convinced of the supernatural presence. One notable account from a family friend, James Johnston, described a night of terror where he challenged the entity, only to be met with intelligent responses and physical manifestations. I am kind of dumbfounded, to be honest with you right now. What was he doing challenging this entity?
I do not know.
And then what was the entity saying back? I mean, it's an intellectual conversation with an entity. I must know.
I must know too. I would not be challenging any entities that was happening to us. But so what do you think the community's reaction to the Bell's family's plight reflect the era's beliefs and the understanding of the supernatural?
Well, during that time, I think that it was a lot more of a norm that supernatural things were happening, like the witch trials. People were being blamed for witchery, ghosts and monsters. There was a lot of stories of that happening during that time, right?
Well, I guess a lot of women were also accused of being witches just because they knew about herbal medicine and stuff like that. So it makes sense.
Yeah. And so I really feel like with that, the community was already prepared for that type of stuff. They took it a little bit more seriously when it came to the paranormal. But then on top of it, like if you were to go off of energy, with more people being involved and putting energy towards this belief, that means that belief is even stronger. So I can only imagine that this made this entity even stronger.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So moving on, I guess it really did. The entity eventually found its voice, evolving from whispers to articulate speech. It sang hymns, quoted scripture, and engaged in conversation. It identified itself as Kate, expressing hostility towards John Bell and promising his demise.
Can you imagine? That's terrifying if some voice just told you, hey, you're gonna be dying, or something like that.
I don't know. I might be more petrified at the hymns.
I guess that makes sense. I feel like the demise is my bigger issue. But there was a twist to this whole thing. So visitors from all over, drawn by the tales of the Bell Witch, witnessed this phenomenon. So the entity demonstrated knowledge of distant events and personal secrets, baffling all who encountered it.
Okay, so now it was prophetic.
Right.
This is the strangest entity I have ever heard about.
That is really strange.
Not only was it vengeful, angry, and physically abusive. It was also singing hymns and having intellectual conversations, but then now it was prophesizing.
Yeah.
And now, like, I would feel like this is like the devil itself.
I guess I could see why people wanted to witness that, because it sounds, I don't want to say too good to be true, but it sounds too intriguing to be true.
Mesmerizing,
yeah, indeed. So its ability to interact, predict, and manipulate was unprecedented at the time, or even today, I guess. There's actually a legend of Andrew Jackson. So he visited the Bell farm, and he wanted to witness the witch's story. So his encounter where his wagon was immobilized by an unseen force adds a layer of intrigue to this whole thing. So Jackson's purported exclamation was, "By the eternal boys, it is the witch!" Suggests even he was not immune to the witch's influence.
It's really interesting for sure. I wouldn't have fathomed that our president at that time, well, soon to be president at that time, was so taken back by the paranormal and superstition that he himself had to go to the farm to see for himself if it was real. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So what do you think had Andrew Jackson interested in that case, or got him involved to even make his move and go out there to the family?
Well, there are accounts and stories that he perhaps knew one of the sons, John Bell Jr. Apparently, John Bell Jr. was under his command in the military.
That makes sense.
And so perhaps John Bell was talking about these unnatural incidences that were happening, and that really intrigued him.
So that makes sense. So Andrew Jackson was a general first before he became the U.S. president later on. Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
he was very well known for his military before being a president, actually. So,
so that makes sense why he got involved with that, if he knew the son or one of the sons.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So I think that with him also stepping in, that's just made this story even more elaborate and intriguing.
Absolutely.
Because you put somebody of a high profile in there, it makes everybody else believe too.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So moving on, Kate Batts, a neighbor with whom John Bell had a fraught relationship with, is often linked to the witch's origins. Rumors of her being a witch combined with their disputes fueled speculation that she cursed the Bell family.
So Betts was a prominent figure in the community, known for a strong personality and unconventional behavior. The land dispute with Bell only deepened the community's suspicion of her. She passed away in 1843, but the legend of her involvement with the Bell witch lived on.
So that definitely shed some light on the fact that it wasn't just like a paranormal thing. It wasn't just like some ghost that was attacking this family. It was actually a human being that was living during that time that had some sort of paranormal skills or abilities to be able to do this, to manifest her anger and her vengeance out into the open world and still be alive.
How do you think that gender and social dynamics played into that, painting Kate as the witch?
Well, kind of going back to what you said, is like during that time, women were being condemned left and right for being a part of witchcraft. If they knew medicine, if they were a part of alchemy, anything like that, that they were immediately, hey, you're a witch.
Yeah, you're not normal. You don't belong here. You're not the regular housewife. What are you doing with medicine and herbal stuff? Yeah, makes sense.
Well, and apparently Kate Batts was a very predominant figure. She would talk about anything. She would speak up about stuff. She was a really strong character, which is, I think, abnormal during those times for a woman to be that strong with her presence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The Bell witch's influence reportedly extended beyond the Bell farm. Neighbors and others in the community experienced similar phenomena, voices, apparitions, and physical disturbances, suggesting that the entity had far-reaching powers. Which is really strange, because if this was just Kate Batts who had this feud with John Bell, why were other people seeing this? If this was just a curse on the family, why did neighbors in the community and stuff like that see a manifestation of other things?
Plus, it gives the whole case some legitimacy if other people have seen it too. So I think these accounts challenge the notion that the haunting was confined to the Bell family or the property. I think it raises the question about the nature of the entity and its intentions? Was it seeking justice, revenge, or merely to sow chaos?
Honestly, I think it really probably originated at trying to sow chaos. That it ended up building in strength and becoming more. So that maybe it started with just the family, but then it expanded.
Oh yeah, that could make sense. So that also tells me that the ghost, it wasn't just a conventional ghost who latched onto one victim. It literally just jumped from, I want to say, call him victim, jumped from victim to victim, family to family. It's very interesting. It's a very different ghost than we are used to from the stories.
What it sounds like to me is it's a ghost that has an addiction.
Yeah,
it started.
It wants to communicate and sing to people and evaluate them.
Yeah, and then also physically harm them and threaten their lives. And so it's a very unusual entity for sure. The Bell Witch Cave, a natural formation near the Bell property, has become synonymous with the legend, said to be a haven for the entity. The cave is a site of continued fascination and fear, with visitors reporting unexplained phenomena to this day.
Wow. I actually want to go see that cave. I actually need to see it just to see if we can experience some of that energy that's lingering in that cave.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing for sure. It starts singing, I'm running out as fast as possible.
I might just have to record that. Maybe that could be really interesting. So the stories of the cave's eerie atmosphere, voices echoing from the depth, and visitors experience sudden emotional shifts, add layers to this legend though. It is as if the cave itself holds the key to understanding the Bell Witch phenomenon, I feel like. And the cave's limestone composition, natural acoustics, and secluded location make it a perfect setting for the continuation of the Bell Witch story. I think its role in the legend speaks to the human fascination with natural formations as gateways to the supernatural. So kind of like a portal, like a portal almost.
Like a portal in a sense. That makes perfect sense. And then honestly, it kind of expands on what we were talking about earlier, where the ghost started with just the family, and then it just wanted to expand, and so that means it had to move the location and find a place for it that made more sense, where it can be involved with more people. And so now with the fact that there's so much energy that's coming there's more people that are visiting and stuff like that, this entity is being fueled by that.
So let me ask you that, what role do you think the cave plays into that? Since a cave usually is probably like it's a dark environment, right? It plays on human fears. Like nobody likes the dark. It echoes. There's all sorts of noises in the cave. So how do you think that plays into that legend?
Well, everybody honestly is afraid of the unknown, right? So the fear itself of the unknown, the cave is the unknown. You know, going into a cave, you don't know what you're gonna get into or where you're gonna be at unless you've been there before, right? Yeah. And so it just it brings up more fear that it thrives off of.
Yeah. Plus, I can imagine. I mean, in the 1800s, we didn't have flashlights that illuminated the entire space. Well, these tiny little oil lamps, and you go into a dark cave like that, and it barely shines light in any corner. So I feel like when you're in the dark, your eyes play tricks on you, right? So now, I guess that adds a lot to that fear that people already have going into the cave.
Well, and that could potentially debunk that there's an entity at all in the cave, right? Is because there's a lot of, in the darkness, there's a lot of illusions that could happen, and if you have a belief, you try to manifest those things so that they show up. And so the cave can either be a real thing or a not thing.
So we have to go and see it.
Yes, we should, except for when it sings, and then I'll be out of there as fast as possible. One thing that I wanted to bring up, so I digress a little bit because I realized that we haven't spoken about this yet. We kind of dabbled into it, but John Bell, he was the center of this whole entire experience. And one thing that happened to him is after the Bell Witch threatened to kill him, he died. He died and was found shortly after with this weird, mysterious black liquid next to his bedstand that nobody could understand. I mean, at that time, of course, there's no testing, so you can't really see what that is. But this black liquid potentially could have killed him. And this entity, Kate Batts, said it was her. And so I wonder, with being responsible for a death, if it was possible that helped her to expand outside of the home. Now that the centerfold of her haunting was gone, the thing that she was so focused on, she was able to, I guess, release herself, find a new location that she can haunt instead.
So we're back to the being latched onto one victim, and then once that victim had passed, she was able to move on to
bigger,
let's say, more victims in a sense.
Yep, essentially. And so I think that the Bell Witch haunting remains one of the most compelling ghost stories in American history, a blend of fact, folklore, and mystery that continues to captivate and terrify. Honestly, it is pretty terrifying.
It is very terrifying. And I think with each generation the story evolves, right? But the core of the mystery always remains. The Bell Witch's legacy is a testament to the power of storytelling and the enduring fascination with the unknown for all of us.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, the unknown is such an interesting thing in itself anyways. When you have a story and you have fairy tales or folklore or fictional things, we get lost in those things because sometimes I think humans just naturally want to escape the real world, and we want to believe in something that's external to us and something that might not be real. Even if it is really not real, we still want to believe it's real because it's exciting and gives you an adrenaline rush, and that gives you a dabble into the unknown.
I agree.
So as we close this chapter of Enigma Explorers, we're reminded that the shadows of the past are not truly gone. The Bell Witch haunting challenges us to question the boundaries of reality and depths of the human psyche.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you all for joining us in this wonderful, well, I don't know if it's wonderful, but it's really exciting journey into the heart of darkness and mystery. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Bell Witch. Do you believe? What explanations or any do you find compelling?
Until next time, keep the spirit of exploration alive. I'm Diana.
And I'm Marcel. Farewell, fellow explorers. And remember, the world is filled with mysteries waiting to be unraveled.
Bye-bye.
Bye.